So I was out last night prepping things for Month of Monsters. Something weird came up and bit the back of my neck, and I don't know if it's going to result in anything, but we'll see what happens. But let's get on to day 2 of the Month of Monsters. Hello, this is Soundout here, and welcome to day 2 of the Month of Monsters. It all kicked off yesterday, this daily video series, but today we're going to get to an actual monster. And this monster is known as the Gillman, or more famously, Creature from the Black Lagoon. This is a monster that was created by Universal and their Universal Monsters, where other monsters they had were sort of adapted from books and other novels, and trust me, we'll talk about them too. But debuting in 1954, the Creature from the Black Lagoon is sort of a different type of tone because it was made later in cinema. It has kind of a different vibe to it, but it features the Gillman as the prominent monster character. There were a total of 3 Creature of the Black Lagoon films, and there is a continuing arc for the Gillman throughout all 3 of them, which is honestly pretty impressive. The Gillman himself is described as being from an Amazonian rainforest and being a subspecies of an aquatic human, which is honestly really cool, and there's a lot of good sciencey stuff that comes up in these films that I don't think they get credit for due to the sort of cheesy nature of the Creature films. But in terms of the overall series, having that continual arc is actually kind of important, because you essentially see the creature become from just a monster to being more of a man. And that is actually a different arc than most of the Universal monsters get. However, those are the only 3 appearances of the Creature of the Black Lagoon in his own standalone films, which is kind of a shame, because I think the Gillman deserves a little bit more. He's one of the most iconic monster movie designs we've ever seen, and yet has not appeared in many things. Though I imagine if the Creature from the Black Lagoon had a modern remake, the Gillman would be much more monstrous, much more terrifying, and maybe lose a little bit of the charm. Now, there has been a ton of merchandise for the Gillman over the years, and today's subjects are going to be from 2 currently ongoing lineups. One is going to be from Jada Toys, and the other is from Mego. They both take different approaches, and one of them is maybe one of the best action figures released in the last decade. So let's take a look at some creatures from the Black Lagoon.
Jada Toys' recent line of Universal Monsters was quite a surprise when it came on the scene last year, but they slowly become something I've really enjoyed. The packaging has a lot of flair to it. I love the Gillman artwork on the side of the box. It's very classic and very cool. Even the back of the packaging having the lineup of the first wave of figures, and that being the same on all of them, isn't too bad and actually shows off what the line will have in store. And I appreciate the side of the box being 3 different character portraits. Unfortunately, I think having Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein is a little redundant, but hey, look at that, Creature made it on the side. Looking at Jada's version of the Gillman, he just looks fantastic head to toe. Lots of really nice green shading and lots of really nice color usage throughout. Taking a close-up at his head, you can see that there's not only a lot of great sculpted textures, a lot of, sort of rib design, but also you get really bright and vibrant colors, as well as a really nice expression for the Gillman. Looking at the legs, you can see that the colors sort of peter and gradient their way down the figure, which I think just works really well. You've got those greens, the brown accent, and it gets all the way down to his toes, which just looks phenomenal. Even the back of the figure is really well painted, having a lot of details and having a lot of that look that makes it sort of look like a guy in a suit. For articulation, head moves left and right, up and down. The shoulders move out, the shoulders move 360. The biceps swivel, pretty good. Double jointed elbow, really good. Wrists that pivot in and out as well as rotate. You got a torso that ball joints left and right, up and down in 2 different places that allows him to crunch forward as well as crunch back. The hips move out, the hips move forward. The hips move a little bit back, and the thigh swivel is really well disguised. The double jointed knee moves really, really far and gets as close as you possibly can. The ankle pivots forward and back and also left and right. The articulation on the Gillman allows him to pull off high martial arts poses. He's as articulated as a Power Rangers figure, which is really impressive for a guy that's mostly a slow mover in the movies. The detail and the articulation together just make this a fantastic looking figure. However, that's not all he includes, as he does have several accessories. So naturally, there's the default head on him, which is the standard sort of Gillman look that you would expect. And then we have this alternate look with his mouth closed, which makes him look a little bit confused and a little bit scared. I don't see myself using this one as much. He also includes an alternate hand as well as a harpoon gun. Looks really great, I love the silvers and blacks used on the weapon, and it is a nice addition. He comes with a fossilized Gillman hand, which is actually part of the key to learning the backstory of the Gillman within the creature from the Black Lagoon movie. The last accessory is quite impressive. It's a net. This net is properly large and looks pretty great, and honestly, it just covers the Gillman really well, and I think it's just a great inclusion. The Gillman stands around 6 inches tall, which means he will be scaled sort of to Marvel Legends, and that sort of scaling ratio for other types of figures. Overall, the Jada Toys Gillman is absolutely phenomenal. Great range of articulation, great detail and accessories, and perfect likeness to the character. I have absolutely zero complaints with him. Now, this isn't the only Gillman we're looking at today, because another Gillman came out recently that I thought was worth covering. The one from the revived Mego line. Yes, somehow Mego returned in vintage style packaging, in vintage style figuring. They returned to their style from the 70s and 80s. Looking at the Migo Gillman, he has such great greens and colors that I wasn't expecting from Mego. I thought he would be more overly cartoonish. This one goes for more earthy tones. His head sculpt's pretty good. It's got that Gillman look to it. Not exactly film accurate, but something that, you can see it. You can see the creature from the Black Lagoon in his face. He doesn't have the normal hands and feet that you would see on a Mego, which means he has a better look to him than other Mego figures that look like the same guy just dressed up in multiple costumes. This is distinctively the Gillman. And looking at the back, it's a little bit messy because of where the Velcro line is for the bodysuit, but I think it does work out hiding it behind the frills. And that plastic collar piece helps as well. For articulation, the head moves left and right. The shoulders move out. The shoulders also move 360. It's on a rubber band-like system, and you get an elbow bend as well. The wrists do pivot, and you can actually pivot them in and out as well, which is a pretty nice point. The torso has a little bit of a ball joint sort of action, and the hips move out, move forward back, and the knee, as well as an ankle. Pretty limited, but pretty classic. Overall, the Migo Gillman is going to give you a vintage, retro-inspired look. Not necessarily something film accurate, but something kind of fun in the style of older figures, and that's pretty cool.
So that does it for our versions of the Gillman we're going to look at in this series. I hope there are more on the horizon, especially from NECA, because I really love the Jada Toys version. The articulation, the accessories, the way that just comes together as a full figure is amazing. The Migo does have that vintage style, and NECA's probably going to meet somewhere in the middle where it'll have more movie accurate details, but it won't be as articulated as the Jada Toys one. And that Jada Toys one is so good, I wish they would make more of them, but there's not more Gillman to make. Unless they make somebody from the Munsters, but maybe more on that later in this series. And in fact, stay tuned, as tomorrow we will be starting the first of our themed weeks here on Month of Monsters, and you'll just have to stay tuned to find out which thing you'll want to sink your teeth into. In the meantime, I'm going to figure out why my neck's still hurting, and hopefully it doesn't turn into something bad.